lot of people think that once if America gets out of Afghanistan and Iraq, it already knows what the next war is going to be, and that's why Iran is on the radar.
And that could very much be in the minds of the powers that be at this point.
Yeah.
Like, so this gets back to your question about, the need for a big military versus a small military. When the military, wherever the military is, big or small, there is a shadow economy that exists around it between government contractors, housing developers, whatever. There are people who survive off of around and adjacent to the military. So if the military itself shrinks, all the people who depend on that are left with nothing. It's the same as like a factory pulling out of a small town. That creates a lot of joblessness and a lot of economic woe. So I think a lot of people in the government look at this massive military, realize that if it does shrink, this could have disastrous effects on the national economy. So rather than biting the bullet, so to speak, or finding other economic and civic tools to make that transition for a large amount of people from military sustenance into a different role that would be more helpful for society, instead of like actually doing that hard work, they just, let's just keep the military really big and keep throwing it in different places and using it, because if we don't use it, then we get all these problems and we have to reduce it. So yeah, maybe they will just keep coming up with other reasons to send our people overseas to fight. I truly hope that's not the case. I truly hope that's not the case. Like, this whole country needs a break. It would be nice to have a good generation, your boys' generation, go without a war for once.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can't. War sometimes is inevitable, in my opinion, man. But if you can do whatever you can to stop it, that's the goal. Is I know it's sometimes it's hard, but you got war is not is it just ruins everything, man.
It does. You know very well that it's so horrible. We should only do it if we absolutely have to. I think World War II was a great example of battles that were horrible that had to be fought.
Yeah.
But right now, I look around the globe and I see tons of armed conflicts that don't need to be fought.
Can America morally not get involved?
It depends. It depends. Like I don't always know how to answer that question.
Like, some people say it's a moral, it's a moral obligation for the superpower to go and help countries that are, being run by, dictators who treat their people unfairly and, rape and pillage and kill, and just, the elite have the power, and then everybody else can go to hell.
The truth of the matter is, depending on the situation, external influence could just make things worse. Because you look at a place like Africa, the Hutus and the Tutsis, like that's the type of conflict that's still small enough where, like I think it was like the French who actually engaged in that, but that's the type of conflict that's small enough that it can be halted through force of arms. But if you look at something like Syria, I think one of the reasons we didn't really get involved there is because had we got involved in it, it would make things worse. Look what happened when we cut off the head of the snake in Iraq. Everything fractionalized. Everybody went into tribal mode and created this quagmire of a civil war that we're still trying to pick through today. That would be the exact same thing that happened in Syria, and the bloodbath would be probably even worse than what we've actually seen. So
yeah, man, when it comes to conflict, I think we can just talk about it, we can talk about it for hours, and I think we'd come back to the conclusion that if it's possible, don't go to war. You know, like
Yeah,
don't go to war. I think
I
most
agree.
Americans don't want us to be in any wars. They want the government to concentrate on them, on
Mhm.
improving infrastructure, on improving, you know, I think it's 1 in 5 or 1 in 8 kids in America go to sleep hungry.
Wow.
Um, so like work on things like that that really affect American, you know, the American people from the bottom, you know, work on it from the top down and the bottom
Mhm.
up, or however way you want to look at it. But these wars just don't make sense anymore. It made sense after September 11th, but now for the common American, I think when they're seeing, I think it's like $700 billion for budget for the military, they're thinking, hey, what do you 700 billion? Are we spending all of that? Because they don't know that's going into, you know, research and development for weapons and, you know,
Mhm.
maintenance and salaries and all this other, you know, things that need to maintain the army. But they're thinking, holy, you know, hell, 700 billion for for the military. We can use a lot more of that for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah.
And
With a small portion of the defense spending that we have, we could probably end, at very least, hunger in the United States. I don't know exactly how to compare those numbers, but I've seen some statistics that talk about that. It's just the amount of money that we spend on our military is so insane, and I think we can reduce that number without reducing the quality of life or the quality of readiness that our war fighters need
yeah.
to be prepared.